an article came out recently in the Times that talked about the economic effects that extreme heat is having. And I was kind of drawn to this because I feel like usually the people who aren't already fully on board with attacking climate change talk about the economic benefits that we could have from fracking, from burning coal, drilling more oil, right? The thing is, we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot in every way.
Totally.
With the effects of climate change. So we just had, I think, one of the hottest months on record in June and the hottest month on record in July. Today's August 1st. So
what a nightmare.
That date is kind of in the books. And it is hurting our economy massively. It's hurting workers' productivity and ability to work the right amount of hours or enough hours in delivery, as we just talked about. In agriculture, people working farms, construction, and other lesser known occupations like meat processing. People have to work in these really heavy protective suits because it's not really a safe environment to be in. And they're also holding really hot hoses to hose down these enormous meat carcasses to clean them. Doing that in 100-degree weather, 110-degree weather, not good, not healthy.
And that comes with the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, taking away the right of workers to take water breaks.
Yeah.
Like, how much of a spiteful asshole do you have to be like, oh, it's 110 degrees outside. Don't stop and get water, you plebeian. Keep spraying down that meat. Like, what is happening?
It is the perfect example of the toxicity of the free market ideology, right? Of
yes.
Just let the companies do what they want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it gave a few other examples of occupations that are really hurt by this. But the point is, what is the cumulative effect looking like? Well, as far as productivity, the estimate in 2021 is that we lost 2.5 billion hours of labor because of extreme heat. The dollar number in 2020 was 100 billion of economic gains loss, and that number is expected to balloon to 500 billion by 2050.
And that's per year, 500 billion per year.
Exactly. This is it might seem like this is futile, right? So maybe you're a climate denier, or maybe you accept climate change, but you are still more focused on the economy, and you think, well, we're already screwed. So why sink all this money into it, right? And there is something to be said about the fact that we are not even the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. We are second, but China dwarfs us in that. We emit about 13% of the world's greenhouse gases on an annual basis. And so how much can we really even do by reining in our own burning? And I would say, one, we have to start here before we can start spreading it elsewhere. And I do very much believe we should do whatever we can to spread it elsewhere so that we can save ourselves. But the difference is, or the other thing is, this isn't a completely sunk cost, right? We're at about 1.3 degrees of warming above pre-industrial levels right now, and we're already seeing how devastating that is. But it is not as devastating as 1.5 degrees will be, or as 2 degrees will be.
Exactly.
2.5. And those are very much within the realm of possibility. We do still have agency here. Mm-hmm. We can change our futures, and we need to be paying attention and putting our dollars here so that we can prevent those even more catastrophic outcomes.
And those catastrophic outcomes, like, let's stay on the, like, I hate that we have, honestly, from a personal perspective, I hate talking about the climate emergency in the realm of economics like that, and trying to put like we're saving money, because that shouldn't be what we need to hear. But I think it's important to make that point, so I'm glad you did. But that $500 billion a year being lost on economic output in the United States, that's the size of Norway. That's the entire economy of Norway lost every year. An entire Norway.
Yeah, and Norway's a developed economy.
Yeah, a very developed economy. An entire Norway. So please, if you don't want to waste an entire Norway every year by 2050, just get on board here.
Yes.
Listen, what I do like to see is, even in the states like Texas, right? an obviously pro-oil, pro-fossil fuel state, they're expanding their renewables so fast.
Yeah.
Wind and solar are growing exponentially across the country. We haven't seen carbon go down, but we see renewables go up. And what I'm seeing, what I gather from that is new energy requirements are being filled by renewables, while we haven't gotten rid of the old things that required fossil fuels, right? So we're moving towards that renewable future, but we still have the legacy of fossil fuels in our infrastructure. The next step is to take that fossil fuel down.
Yeah.
That's harder than building.
Definitely.
It's way harder.
Definitely. It's the carrot is easier than the stick.
Yeah.
In this case.
Always.
I would support like a carbon tax.
Oh, of course.
To do that.
Yeah.
I did read an article recently about there's problems with transmission. A big problem once you get into the nitty-gritties of renewables is the sun doesn't shine in the same amount everywhere. The wind doesn't blow the same amount everywhere.
The problem is transmission. The problem is storage. How do we get the energy from sunny Nevada up to, cloudy Massachusetts? How do we do that?
Yeah.
But the Massachusetts might get energy from hydropower. It might get energy from wind farms. Wind farms is the real possibility for renewables
offshore particularly.
Offshore
wind farms we should be sinking a ton of money into it. But honestly, there's also been news recently about wind farm projects, offshore wind farm projects being shut down or at least paused because costs have been rising. So it's an extremely multifaceted issue. We should probably do a deep dive on it. It's been in my mind as something to do a deep dive on, and I've kind of been reluctant to just because it is so vast.
It's so vast
of a topic,
and that's coming from guys who did 3 episodes on China.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this is fast.
It feels overwhelming.
Yeah, and it feels sad and depressing.
Totally.
Like, talk about the everything sucks part of our name. I mean,
it is it. Yeah.
That is why everything sucks at the end of the day.
Totally. The one other thing I'm going to mention, just because it's on my mind, is with the kind of unsustainability of the sustainable sources, as far as you don't know when the wind is going to blow and you don't know when the sun is going to shine, or the sun doesn't shine at night. One clean energy source that doesn't have those problems is nuclear. And I'm a huge fan of nuclear.
I'm a huge nuclear guy.
Huge fan of nuclear.
Big nuclear guys over here.
One of the things that has absolutely crippled us is that nuclear has become so politically unviable.
It's so politically unviable. I don't understand why. If we just transitioned to nuclear energy in the 70s, climate change wouldn't have been a thing. Isn't that so sad?
Yeah, and also Eisenhower wanted to.
I didn't know
Eisenhower had pushed for it, and then and I think like a bunch of development did happen, and then I don't know if it was Chernobyl. No, I think there was an accident somewhere else in a different reactor
before Chernobyl.
Maybe it might not have been as big as Chernobyl. Okay. Something shut it down, or maybe it was another president that came in and had different ideas. But we just got scared, and the reality is now, like, you have to think about the cost-benefit analysis. It's on the side of the benefits.
Yeah,
clearly.
Of course. I mean, like, I think 10% of American energy is from nuclear energy, but France, as we'll talk about, gets 100% of its almost 100% of its electrical grid is all nuclear.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like the cleanest domestic economy in Europe because of that, because it's all nuclear.
I didn't know that.
It's all nuclear.
Wow.
That's their whole energy grid.
Wow.
Which makes our other conversation more important.